Hey guys, it's Craig Yanni with the Pacific Northwest Sasquatch Research Group. I'm here in Yakima Valley at the Sasquatch conference that they've held back on for 2 years because of COVID. It's an honor to be here. We have a really great lineup. Look forward to seeing you here. We'll see you then.
Okay, so on 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. Okay, Craig. Where we go?
I had to go turn the camera on. My cameraman's late. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so
All right, people, let's get started.
this is going to be a great show. We have a really great lineup today.
Bonjour les Nijnakas. Nous sommes les Nijnakas, Shiba Kamoke, les Nijnakas, Migiti Ninoda, Migoch. And what I said there was a traditional Ojibwe greeting because I am an enrolled tribal member of the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota, and that is how we begin our speaking on the reservation back home. So here I am on a reservation, and I gotta follow those things here. I just told you my name, I welcomed you, and I said thank you for having us. And I said my spirit names that I was given in sacred ceremony, as well as where I'm from and my clan, which is Eagle Clan. And I'm very, very happy and proud to be here and be invited to the acclimation. They've been very good to us. So thank you to Mel and Trina and everybody on the board and the council. And you know, yesterday we even got to go visit the tribal council and visit with them. So that was it's been just so wonderful. It's been wonderful here. So thank you for having us. I've come all the way from the state of Minnesota. That's a long ways from here. And my teammate's Jenna, she lives in West Fargo, North Dakota, which is a sister city from the city where I live in Moorhead. It's separated by a river, which is the state line. And Tammy Treco, she completes our trifecta. And she used to live in Gary, Minnesota, which wasn't that far from me. And a few years ago, life changes happened, and she moved to Western Virginia. So we still get together, and we still go out looking for Bigfoot together, and we just meet wherever we're going to be. And we're just so blessed to be able to go to these Bigfoot conferences, and people want to see what we found and hear the stories of what we've experienced and see the things that we found. So thank you for coming today, and everyone's thank you for welcoming us and being so grateful. We're just so grateful. So, this is my team, my beautiful ladies. So we are the She-Squatchers. Our team formed in 2015 when I was interviewing Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist you see all over TV. He's got the International Cryptozoology Museum in the state of Maine. And I was interviewing him for my radio show. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I had maybe seen 3 episodes of Finding Bigfoot on TV in passing. Honestly, I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never thought about it long enough to think whether or not I thought it was real or not. I was just like, oh, whatever. And when I ended up at the same place that he was, at a Paracon, he sat down with me and gave me an hour interview, and he educated me about what is Bigfoot, and he assured me that there was Bigfoot in my home state of Minnesota. And I did not believe him. Because I grew up on the reservation line, in the woods. We grew, raised, and hunted everything we ate, except for flour and yeast and chocolate chips, because that's a necessity. But we were poor, so we were living organically before organic was even cool. So living organic, you don't have to be rich, you just have to grow and fetch your own stuff. Anyway, so Mark Coleman told me that his idea, he thought it was the recipe for success in finding and interacting with Bigfoot, to get women to go into the woods without men, dogs, or guns. He thought this was the recipe for success in getting Bigfoots to come in a little closer and get a little look-see at some ladies out there that probably didn't have anything harmful for them. Sorry, my voice is harsh today. I talked way too much last night, and this is what happens. Anyway, so he assured me that there was Bigfoot there, and I kind of took that as a challenge, and I said, all right, I'm going to find some ladies, and we're going to go out and give this a try. Now, besides just being a curious person who grew up in the woods in the valley, I also am sensitive to sensing other things, and people in the regular world would call that psychic, but in the native world, they just call me gifted or sensitive. And so I always had that sense, and I had been using that sense for years, helping with missing persons cases and locating people who were missing. And sadly, it was always the ones who were already dead that I was finding. That wasn't fun work for me, but then I started doing work with the paranormal work with the children, and sometimes native children's families would have to come in and work with them if they were gifted and they didn't have a relative with them that was still with them that knew how to teach them how to navigate that. So they'd call me in and I'd go work with their family and the child and teach them how to navigate that, and so they could feel comfortable with what was happening to their child. So in addition to just being a curious person who was loving the woods, I always had those extra senses, and I thought, hey, if I'm finding missing people, why not use those senses and try to find Bigfoot? Because Bigfoot is missing too, right? So, in addition to Lauren Coleman's idea of women in the woods without men, dogs, or guns, we are also going to use our psychic senses to see if we can sense Bigfoot. And we do that using different ways. So we're an all-female team. That's our all-female Bigfoot experience, and we are doing that. And we have, most of us on our team are animal communicators, but some of us are stronger at some of those gifts than others. And so I'm going to have Tammy explain to you about animal communication. And Tammy?
Is this on? Okay, it works now. I'm so sorry, Jen, that your voice is kind of gone.
Take it away, Tammy.
Okay, well, animal communication may be different for all different people. Most psychics, use their mind to communicate with animals, and that is fine. I can do that also. But I can also speak with my voice in English to animals, and they understand what I'm saying. I don't necessarily, understand them if they're speaking to me in their language, but we understand each other, and I have actually rescued many a bird from an enclosed situation where they got trapped. One time I was with a group of friends, and we were doing some primitive camping in Minnesota on a lake, and we took a boat across to this island that had some old cabins from the 50s. And they didn't use them anymore. It wasn't an old resort. But we walked inside these cabins, and there was a wood duck that had been trapped. I don't know how long. There was plenty of feathers and scat. So I just communicated to the duck, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to pick you up, and I'm going to take you outside, and I'll set you down, and you can go. And they're like, oh, you can't. You can't touch that duck. It's going to bite you. So I just walked over to it and said, I'm not going to hurt you. Picked it up and I brought it outside and I set it down. And it never looked back at me and then it flew away. So I've rescued ducks, hummingbirds, all types of birds. And I just use my words to communicate with them, but I know that they can understand me, and I can also touch an animal and know if it's sick and where it's sick. It feels hot to my hands. I can pet a dog, and I'm like, oh, and I'll touch their ear and their ears, so I'm like, do they have mites, or do they have an ear infection? And sometimes, their heads are hot, they have tumors and things like that. I don't like to tell people, hey, I petted your dog and it's sick. I was like, you might want to take it into the vet for a checkup, just saying. But yeah, that's how I communicate with animals. And I know that some psychics just communicate with their minds and some with their words, but I'm able to just talk to animals and they understand me. I guess that kind of makes me a Dr. Wheeler.
You said it, not me.
Now that I think about it.
Thank you, Tammy. So this here is a picture. Isn't she wonderful? And her voice isn't cracking like mine. So this here is a picture, some pictures of a white-faced Saki monkey who lives at the Red River Valley Zoo in Fargo, North Dakota. And when I first went there with my mom on Mother's Day quite a few years ago, I I was looking at this white-faced Saki monkey, and he was just having a hard time. He was, he had what looked like a hazelnut in his hand, and he was smacking it on his hand until it hurt so bad that he had to switch hands, and then he was smacking on his other hand trying to crack this nut open. And I felt so bad for him, and I was like, Mom, this is just breaking my heart. This little monkey is hurting himself trying to open this nut. So I said, I'm going to try to talk to this monkey. And my mom's like, okay. She was used to me doing stuff like that through having all these years with me. And so I go over pretty far away. He's in a glass enclosure. And I went pretty far away from where he was because I didn't want it to be where there were no people. And so I was standing there by the glass by myself, really far away from him, kind of by the bathroom door. And I started to try to communicate with him. And I was picturing him hitting this nut on a rock. And I was like, do it this way, do it this way. And I was trying to show him how to open that rock, how to open it by hitting it on a rock instead. And he was just kind of continuing to do what he was doing. And all of a sudden he went, and he looked at me. He just turned his head and he looked at me. And he threw the nut down on the ground, and he comes scampering over to the glass where I was, which is probably about 15 to 20 feet away from where he originally was. And he smacked himself up against the glass. His little hands were in the air. You can see my finger on his hand on the glass. And he was just started licking the glass. And so this was really funny. My mom's like, okay, so you communicated with the monkey. But he didn't change what he was doing with the nut. He just threw it on the ground and came over to see me. So, I mean, it was very interesting for me to have that experience with him, and it was maybe 4 years till I went back there again. And I said, another time on Mother's Day, my mom wanted to go to the zoo. So we went, and I said, all right, Mom, I want to see if my monkey is still there. And so we go there, and I got to go back over to where there's no people, and he's pretty far from where he is. And this time he's sitting on the ground in the back, and he's looking kind of scared and having a bad day. And I was feeling bad for him, so this time I sent him a mental picture of him coming over to the glass like he did the last time. And I thought it would take maybe 30 seconds or a minute, because that's how long it took the last time. This time, it was like less than 10 seconds, and he went, and he comes scampering over, again, right up against the glass and licking the glass. So that was my little experiment on, can I communicate with monkeys? And so he's forever known as my little monkey boyfriend, because he's in love. Every time I would go into the bathroom, go into that building to use the bathroom, he would like chase me along the window. So I just want to take a moment and talk a little bit about some footprints that we found. The person in this picture died about a week ago. And she used to be on the She-Squatchers team, and her funeral is today. So bear with me on that one. Her name is Nikki Jordan, and she died last Sunday. She's a Red Lake tribal member. She's from my reservation, so we were here, so we didn't get to go to her funeral, but we just wanted to give a moment for her. Thank you. Jenna, do you want to talk about this? No? Okay, so we were up on my reservation, and Nikki was driving us, because when I want to use my senses, my psychic senses, I don't feel like I should be driving a big vehicle, because I'm not fully aware of the physical side of things. I'm trying to be aware of other energies and other things. Sorry. Anyway, so Nikki was driving, we were going from one area to another, and she was driving me to a part of the reservation that I had never been to before, because our reservation is 840,000 acres in northern part of Minnesota. And we were going to go up to the ceded lands, the lands that the tribe gave up. They're ceded, but most of our reservation is unceded, 840,000 acres. And so she was driving us up there, and we're going about 55 miles an hour. And I was asking to feel the energy of Bigfoot. And I had successfully done that before. I am a Reiki master teacher. I feel energy as a physical sensation in my body. It's not just a good feeling or a good vibe. I literally feel the zzz in my body. And so I was asking to feel the energy of Bigfoot. And we're driving around 55 miles an hour, and I scream, wait, stop the car. And there's something back there in that woods. I felt it, and I felt that vibration and the pull to the right. And I said, there's something in that woods back there, right there. And so she's like, is there even a road? I said, I don't know, I just felt it. So she stops the car, she turns around, and we go back. And we find a little road that goes back into that woods. And behind that woods was this gravel pit that none of us knew was there. And right there on the hill, on one of the gravel hills, we see these footprints going straight up, big as day. And this hill was literally this steep. Literally steep, that steep. I didn't climb it. I didn't even try to. But that's Nikki. Jenna climbed it, and Nikki climbed it. And we did cast a couple of the points in the middle there. And that was Nikki laying on the side of the hill waiting for the casting material to dry. And so that is a picture that Jenna took from the top of the hill. And you can see Nikki's feet and her right there and her hand on the right side of the picture in the middle there. And that little dark blob at the bottom or the top of the picture, I should say, that's me. That's me standing there looking up at them. And Nikki went along and she measured all the footprints and the distance between them. And some of them weren't, it had slid in a little bit, so some of the footprints were larger. The largest one was 24 inches, but we think it had an 18-inch foot because that was the smallest of it. And when we showed this to Bobo from Finding Bigfoot, he looked at these pictures that we had, and he says, wow, he says, that's a really steep hill. And I said, yeah. I said to my teammates, they would take a step, and they were on their hands and knees, and they would literally slide back down. And so you can see how much mess they made trying to get up and down next to those footprints there to the right of Nikki. And you can see Nikki sitting on the hill there in the right picture, and I'm standing on the ground. And there's another picture on the left from the top of the hill, and you can see Nikki's hand, knee at the top of the picture. That's where it's looking down. But these footprints had toes, and they were big, and Bobo from Finding Bigfoot said, well, that hill's way too steep for that to have been a bear or a human. That had to be a Squatch. And I said, well, I think it was, because I was led there by the feeling of that energy, and that was right there. So, yes, Jenna's going to talk about this, but so I'm always looking for certain things when we're traveling, and Jenna's just used to me going off on a tangent. I'm into petroglyphs and into rock carvings and native art, pictographs and petroglyphs, and I'm always looking for places that have pictographs or petroglyphs that look like circles within circles or spirals, because that means something to me. And so I want to visit those places. But they're hard to find online, so you just kind of have to see if there's petroglyphs, something you have to go just go look and see if they have their bits there. So Jenna's up at the top of the hill, and I see, Jenna, where did the footprints go?
I'll take it from here, Jen. So I get to the top of the hill after climbing very, very hard. This extremely, very, very steep hill, like Jen said. It really was like this. It was very hard to get up. So I get up on the top, and I'm looking around. The first thing I'm doing is I'm seeing a flat surface. And I'm thinking this is really strange, seeing a flat surface. But I see, footprints kind of going like this, but they weren't any kind of footprints that, they were like different animal and just nothing really. But then in front of me, when I turned around, there were 3 circles. Now inside these circles, it did look like there was something, almost like a crop circle kind of thing, where it was smashed, and almost like a frequency had smashed it and twisted it around. So it was all of the stems and different things like that were all down. Everything else around the circles stood right up. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a chance. Jen! I yelled down to Jen because I finally found circles within circles. I had been looking forever, and she was so excited. I said, Jen, I found something. And she said, take a picture. So I grabbed my camera, and I took a picture, and I sent it down to her. And
Sure enough, there were circles within circles, and then it's kind of hard to see in this photograph, but seriously, they were really intricate, and you can see the weeds in the top of the photograph where they're standing up, but wherever these circles were, the weeds were crushed down, and they were flat. And they were perfect, 3 circles, and then there were circles within circles within circles within circles.
And I have to say, they were just the same size in between each other. I mean, like they were the same, as many inches apart from one another. So they weren't.
It was just amazing. And you know, here's the thing about a gravel pit. You can't walk up that thing and not leave a trace, right? You cannot. It's really messy. You're gonna leave your mark behind. So I was sure that we would find where those footprints went to when they got to the top of the hill, but they ended at these circles and they didn't descend the hill. So that was really, really strange to me. And what did that mean to me? I had been interviewing elders from my tribe and from the neighboring reservations, which were also from my tribe. Minnesota has 9 Chippewa tribes plus the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians. We didn't join the Chippewa tribes because we didn't sign the treaty, and I think it was 114 years ago we didn't sign the treaty to cede the land. So we didn't join the Chippewa tribes. But there's also ones in Michigan and Wisconsin and North Dakota and all the way up above those areas into above the Great Lakes. That's all Ojibwe people. So I've gotten to talk to a lot of different elders about this. And what certain elders were telling me was that Bigfoot is a physical being, and that he could walk between the worlds. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And they said, well, okay, he can travel instantaneously, physical travel, just by thought, moving through the ground. And I was like, okay, so, wait a minute, are you saying like he's running through a tunnel really fast to get from one place to another? And she's like, no. She says they travel physically from one place to another instantaneously with a thought, but through the ground. And I was like, okay, so you're talking like a portal of some kind. And she's like, yeah, you could call it that. And I was like, okay. And so the reason why I was always looking for petroglyphs and pictographs that look like circles within circles is because that's how those were drawn by the ancient native peoples. They were drawn with these circles within circles. So I always thought, hey, if I can find a place where they were carved into stone, this might be like a doorway of some kind. I want to check this out. So Jenna, who's been on many adventures with me, and even before we were looking for Bigfoot, I was interested in this. So she was well aware of my strangeness, so she was very excited to find something with circles within circles, but it wasn't ancient, it was new. And how come those footprints disappeared there? You know, I take everything that the elders tell me sacred, and I put it in my little information bag. But I have this rational mind to me that also says, well, I kind of need to see it to fully grasp that. I hold the information, I soak it up like a sponge, and I hold it sacred, and I pass it along. But for me to fully grasp it, I kind of need to see it. And I think everybody's kind of like that. They've got that rational part of their mind that goes, okay. I need to see evidence of that. And this was one of those things that went, you know, the footprints just appeared there, and they didn't descend the hill anywhere, in any direction. They disappeared there at these circles. And the elders are telling me that Bigfoot can travel through the ground instantaneously with a thought through something like a portal. And how did they draw portals? Circles within circles. So wouldn't that be kind of how they showed up? In circles? That's where my mind went with that. Yeah. So again, I'm from the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians, which everyone else calls Ojibwe. But that is our formal name of the reservation. And we have the 7 sacred teachings of the grandfathers. And they are all, each one, represented by an animal that represents that teaching. And so if we start at the right and we go left, we've got respect, which is represented by the buffalo. We've got courage, which is represented by the bear. We've got wisdom, which is represented by the beaver. We've got love, which is represented by my clan, the eagle. And we've got humility, which is represented by the wolf. And we have truth, which is represented by the turtle. And last but not least, we have honesty, which is represented by Bigfoot, She-Squatcher in the language. And when I asked, why is Bigfoot representing honesty? And they said, he lives the most honest life. He lives true to himself and to his connection to the earth and to all things around him. And that is why he represents honesty. Now these teachings are so old. These are like the 10 Commandments from the tribe, from my tribe, okay? That's how sacred they are. The 7 sacred teachings from the grandfathers. And these 7 sacred teachings, the animals themselves, also represent clans. And so our tribe has the 7 clans. So I just want to say, in reference to that if Bigfoot wasn't real, why would these old sacred teachings, represented by very physical animals that you and I can all observe, right? The eagle, the bear, the beaver, all these that we can observe. Why would they have honesty represented by Bigfoot if Bigfoot wasn't real? Doesn't even make sense, does it? So sometimes when you go and you talk to the native people, if you can get some elders to talk with you, share their wisdom with you, it's so enlightening. It's so enlightening. So again, this is another representation of Sabe. Sabe means honesty in the Ojibwe language. So Gitchi-Sabe means the great big honesty. And that's the name that there are many names in the Ojibwe language, because the Ojibwe language is a descriptive language that describe your interaction with something or someone, and he was the honest one. He's the great big honest. He's also known as the great big hairy man who was standing over there watching. And this here is a picture of a petroglyph. If you type in the Google search and you type in petroglyph portal, this is one of the pictures that will come up. So this is how they used to draw them on the ancient rock carving. And as you see, it circles within circles, and it just makes sense to me that they would draw them the way they appeared. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about remote viewing. And for those of you who don't know what that is, controlled remote viewing was actually kind of developed by the CIA. And they were using it to see if they could spy on other places and look in places that nobody would want them to look. And they've used it to find missing airplanes that have gone down. And controlled remote viewing is so controlled with the moderator that for me it's a little too controlled, because I'm a natural. I just ask questions and things just appear to me in response to my question. Where controlled remote viewing is often they have no idea what they're looking at, and they're just asked to describe it by a moderator. So for me that was it demands too much dependence on a third party. It's not fast enough for me. I get very, frustrated having to deal with somebody else's thought process when I have my own questions that I want to ask and follow them as fast as I can. So I started doing what we are calling geographic remote viewing. And what that is we're looking at satellite imagery, Google Maps, the actual pictures from the satellites looking down on the Earth. We're using Google Earth as well. And we're looking at locations and scanning these locations. So I did this for missing people, okay? And when I do that, I'm asking, is this person here? And looking for this person, is this person here? And what I see on the image changes in reaction to the question I'm asking, if there is something there that I'm asking about, okay? So when I started to do this for Bigfoot, I was like, is there Bigfoot here? And I'm scanning over pictures of satellite imagery, like Mel had explained to you before when he handed me his phone. And I'm asking asking, is there Bigfoot here? Is there Bigfoot here? Is there any Bigfoot evidence that we can collect here? And I remember that day that Mel approached me at the Sasquatch Summit over in Ocean Shores, Washington, and he says, hey, can you remote view for me? And I just took a moment and I looked at him and I sensed his energy and I was like, yeah, I can remote view for you. And, because I don't do that for everybody, because I just don't feel like everybody needs to know exactly where Bigfoot is. What will they do with that information? I'm not sure. But Mel had really good energy and he had a good heart and I could sense that about him. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for you. I didn't know anything else about him, just, yeah, I can do that for you. So he asked me, he says, what do you need? And I said, I need to be looking at a device, get Google Maps. I need to look at the area from above and be able to zoom in and out and look around. And what do you want to know? So he opened his phone up to Google Maps and he brought it to an area, a forest, and he just handed me his phone and he sat next to me and watched me do my thing. It's kind of boring, really. Just looking at my phone, zooming in and out. And I was asking questions, anything Bigfoot here, anything Bigfoot here. And then all of a sudden I started to see a Bigfoot, and so I zoomed in, kept asking, and then I started to see this Bigfoot leaning up against this tree. I said, hey man, I'm seeing a Bigfoot leaning up against this tree here. He's like, oh, okay. And he really didn't react. Like, there's no feedback there. He didn't know if he was connected to that or not. And then he took the phone away, and he took it to another area and had me looking there. And I said, okay, I zoomed in and out, and anything Bigfoot here, anything Bigfoot here. And then I started to see these native people. And it was a man and a woman and a Bigfoot. And the man and the woman, they were wearing really old native clothing. And I'm talking about hides. They were wearing clothing made out of hides. And they were with bone or teeth on them. No buttons or ribbons or anything like that. And she was wearing a hat. And it was like this conal-shaped hat. And I was like, okay, I don't know this hat. And it kept showing me like close-ups of this hat she was wearing. And I was like, I don't understand what that means. I've never seen this kind of hat before. And I'm telling Mel she's wearing this hat. I don't know what the hat means, but it means something. I don't know what it means. But what I am seeing here is there's the man, and there's the woman, and there's the Bigfoot. And they're standing so close together that their arms and their shoulders are touching, and they're all smiling. So that tells me that they were together here. They were friends here. They were definitely at least trading goods or something, and there's no fear, because if there was fear, she wouldn't be standing there, the man would be standing there. But if they felt comfortable enough to have the woman touching the Bigfoot, and they were all smiling, so I was saying they were together here. He's like, okay. Again, not much feedback. But then his wife, the lovely lady over here, she comes over and says, oh, I'm going to go over here now and looking for me. And he says, oh, this is so cool. She's integrated into the tree where he saw Bigfoot leaning against, and said she saw Bigfoot leaning against that tree. I was like, oh, feedback, that's good. So that was good. And it wasn't until like a few weeks later that I was talking to Mel online, and I said, hey, I saw you on TV. He was an expedition Bigfoot, I don't know if you know that. I'm like, hey, I didn't know you were in that show. I saw you on TV. And so then he started talking to me about that place where I had seen the native man, the native woman, and the Bigfoot together. Oh, I forgot to tell you. When I kept saying I don't understand the hat changed into a hat that I did understand. It changed into a fancy lady's hat from like the mid-1800s. I said, okay, so, and then it changed right back. So I'm like, okay, so it was like from the mid-1800s, I think. Because that's like the hat that I saw that I do understand and change right back. So Mel sends me a picture online of this hat. I'm like, that's the hat. He says, that's the traditional hat that our people, the ladies wear that. And I was like, that's awesome, because that's the hat that I saw that I didn't understand. And he says, our people used to live with Bigfoot in our settlements, in our camps. And they were together there. And that, I was identifying a place where they had been living together. And that's really cool, because sometimes I get tuned into things that happened before, And I'm always given information to show me that this was from before. Or I'm seeing something that's right now, or I can just ask, is there something here right now? And then I'll see if there is something there, I'll see the picture change. Now what's cool is my two teammates here, Tammy and Jenna, they're both psychics and they have their own gifts, and so I was like, hey, let's try to do this together. So we talked about how this was done, let's practice. So whenever I would see something, I would drop a GPS pin right next to it, not directly on it, so they could still see exactly the spot I was looking at, because the pin will cover it up. And so I'd send in the pin and I'd say, hey, can you just look at this and tell me what you see at this location? And it's really neat, because there was one time that Tammy and I were about to go to a spot in Minnesota, and so we're walking in these woods in Minnesota, and I see something I've never seen before. I see a Bigfoot with a mountain lion and like a pet. And I was like, that's weird. So I dropped the pin next to it. I said it to Tammy. I was like, hey Tammy, check out this woods. Would you check out this area right here by this pin? Tell me what you see. Tammy, what did you see?
I saw a Bigfoot next to a mountain lion.
And did we go into that woods?
We did not. I don't want to see the mountain lion. I don't mind the Bigfoot, but I don't like the mountain lion.
We did go there and we looked into the woods from the road, and that was I don't play with big cats, I just don't.
Unless we're in Nebraska.
Well, we did have a big cat experience in Nebraska. We did. I didn't say run, I said get to the car, and they ran. We did. And it was very muddy because it had downpours the night before. It was so muddy, and so here's me trying to keep up and slipping and sliding. I'm like, oh gosh, it was awful. I could have been.
Sound very serious. We get to the car immediately.
Yep, there was a big cat. And we were in this campground, well, it was a state park. We were at Indian Cave State Park in Nebraska. And we had gone there before, and I'm like, this feels squatchy. But we didn't have our camping stuff with us, so the next time we planned, the next time we came through Nebraska, we were gonna plan to stay there and bring all of our camping stuff. And so we did. And you have to camp there to be in the park overnight or after dark, because the park closes if you're not camping there. And so we go. And we set up our camp. There is nobody else there because it was pouring so bad the night before. We were supposed to actually be camping the night before, but it was pouring so bad that we couldn't. So we just ended up in a hotel because we couldn't set up our tent in the pouring rain. And so we waited until the next day and went there. Everything's mud. Everything is just, oh, it was gross. But we were the only people there at night. It was awesome. And so we go up to where the Indian caves are. And they actually have us in their petroglyphs up there. That's why I wanted to go there in the first place. And so they have this stairway that goes up to where the Indian caves are. And it's dark out, there's a river flowing there. And you can hear nothing other than the river flowing. And it's just completely a silent night. And my teammates start to walk up these stairs. And all of a sudden, there's noise. What was the noise?
Green acorns being thrown and landing in front of us. They didn't hit us, they landed right in front of us. Each step that we took closer, another one would land in front of us.
Green acorns. And they were landing right at their feet. And whatever it was doing this, it wasn't like dropping them all over. It was just at their feet, but not hitting them.
I was just going to mention, these were curving acorns. They were literally curving. They were not dropping like Jen just said. They were being thrown, they were being curved. So we knew they were not just dropping.
And what was really funny, when they went up there, they continued going up anyway. And when they came back down, they were getting pelted with these acorns the whole time at their feet until they got off the stairwell, and then everything went silent again. Everything just went quiet. So something definitely was saying, don't come up here. And I don't think it was all those spiders, because there's a lot of spiders up there.
Gross spiders in Nebraska. Big spiders in Nebraska.
So this is a picture of a structure that is in Indy. We found it in Indiana, and we were there visiting a Bigfooter whose name is Greg Yost, and he's known as Squatchman, if you've ever heard of Squatchman. So we were on our way back from an event, and hey, I sent him a message and said, hey, do you know of a good place for us girls to camp on the way through Indiana? He's like, yeah, you should go to the hotspot. I'm like, really? I just met you. You're going to tell me where your hotspot is? He's like, yeah. So he tells me how to get there, and I'm like, this is great. Because he had showed us at this event, he showed us some pictures of Bigfoot that he had taken, and they were pretty good. So I was excited, we were excited to go there. So we get there, and he meets us there, and we set up our tent, and he goes and gets firewood and makes a fire for us. And then he took us out to show, we gave a gift at his gifting stump where he leaves gifts for Bigfoot. We left some food and tobacco, because that's the way of my people, is leave tobacco for Bigfoot. And then we went and he showed us around his woods, and it was getting dark. It was awesome. It was awesome. And so he showed us the structure that he founded by a creek bed. And he says he thinks that they made this because it's like some type of a hunting blind where you could just sit in there and wait for the deer to come by and have a drink and then jump out and get them. And Jenna looks at that and she goes, that's not big enough for a Bigfoot.
No,
I didn't say it so rude. I was just like, I don't think that's big enough for a Bigfoot. With a smile.
no, I'm kidding.
How tall do you think Squatchman is? So,
A Squatchman is probably over 6'2", 6'3".
I think he's more like 6'6" or about there. He's really tall. Anyway, he's like, oh yeah, and he swings in there and he sits down and there's plenty of room for Jenna. It looked a lot smaller than it really accommodated. So there's a picture of Jenna in there, if you can see her little face.
I do have to say, anytime there is any structure, I'm the first one to get in there. Being asking, permission, being kind, making sure that we're not disturbing anything, thank you. But yeah, we're very respectful when we are doing this, by the way. We're not just destroying anything, we make sure we're not breaking anything when we're going in there. But yeah, if there's a structure, I'm the first one. Well, now I'm not the first one to raise my hand because Tammy thinks she's more, what was the word?
Brave, ambitious, daring.
Oh my gosh, did you just hear that?
She didn't say fearless.
Oh, I guess I'm still fearless. You can have those.
Oh, I feel as well.
Oh no. Anyway, we're a good team. We have fun together.
Okay, so on to my next story. Come on, they're always competing who's the most fearless one. It's never ending. I'm just gonna say, I'm not it. I get scared. So, I'm not it. So, this is a video that I took from a drive that we took on a trail on my reservation. I had seen it as a trail from satellite imagery. It wasn't a marked road or anything like that. So I wasn't sure if we could drive on it. And here we are driving on it. How do you think? My car did not like this. It is rusty to this day because of all the trees that scraped on it. As you can see, isn't that nice? And it's a good thing we didn't get stuck out there. Thankfully, Nikki was driving it, and she got us through there safely because I can't back up worth anything. Anyway, so I had done a remote view on my reservation. And I had received a report of a Bigfoot structure. And the elder who told me about it, he said, do you know where I live? I said, well, kind of. I kind of know where you live. He's like, well, it's out in the woods behind my house. So I was like, okay. So I started remote viewing that whole woods and that whole peninsula. And it's a pretty big area. And I started to see in the remote view a very large Bigfoot face. And it looked very aggressive. I felt scared of that Bigfoot, which I didn't know how to feel about that because I guess I wasn't scared of Bigfoot yet. And then I was asking the question, is there any Bigfoot evidence here that we can collect? And about 200 feet away from where I saw that aggressive Bigfoot I see this whole area, large area, lighting up this golden light color in response to, is there Bigfoot evidence here that we can collect? And so I'm marking this on my GPS coordinates, I'm marking it. And there's this, what appears to be some type of a road that goes between those two places. And I'm like, well, it's not a marked road, I wonder if we can drive it. So here we are, we're driving on it. So we went there. And I gotta say, it was pretty cool. And so, because my internet and my cell phone works up there. So I've got my Google Maps open and I'm watching us moving along this little trail on satellite imagery of the blue dot. And we're moving until we get right in between those two places where I see the aggressive male. And to the right, about 100 feet in from that trail, I was seeing that aggressive male territory. And if we had stopped the car and went directly into the left, it was less than 100 feet. But I said, within 100 feet, we're going to come across something that's Bigfoot evidence. I'm not sure what it is, but it was lighting up gold. And I was excited because I had been doing this geographic remote viewing for years, using it for missing people, using it for paranormal reasons, and identifying different things that were going on, different things that happened in different places. And so I knew that I was very accurate. If I saw something, there was something there. And I knew that because I had had so many instances where, I remote viewed something and had confirmation that that is what was there. And I'm just going to give you one example that was just crazy because I have this rational mind just like everybody else does. And I question what other psychics say. I don't know if what they're saying is real or not. So I have a question in my rational mind about that. Oops. I went back too far. There we go. You can watch that again. My rational mind. Oh, yeah. My rational mind. I lose my train of thought every once in a while because I don't have an actual outline. I just have videos and pictures. My rational mind. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so the first time I did a remote view for a paranormal investigations team, he said, Jen, can you try your remote viewing thing for me on the haunted house? I said, sure, I'll try. I've never done that before. So he gives me the address of this house, and he had only been asked if his team could come and investigate and find out what's going on there because something was wrong with this family's in this home. And so that's all he knew. He didn't know what kind of problems they were having or anything. So he just gave me the address to see what I would pick up. So I'm looking at it and I'm looking at it. And I'm looking at and the inside of the house with my remote view, and I see this spirit bear looking at himself, and he's not happy, he's sad, he doesn't want to be there. Like, okay, I see a spirit bear looking at himself, he doesn't want to be there, write that down. Then I see 3 Indians staring at the bear. And they're in a row, and one of them is wearing the chief feather headdress, and the one next to him is wearing a wolf hide on his head, and the one next to him is wearing a buffalo hide with the horns. Very, very specific, and all of them are staring at the bear all the time. And so I'm like, okay, that's weird, write it down. I just write everything down. And then I see a hunter running at me, screaming, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but he was a hunter, he had camouflage on and a gun, and he was screaming about something that they never should have done. I was like, okay, write that down. And then I start to see a dead human body in the house. I was like, all right, so there's a dead body in the house. Is it cremated? Nope. Okay, was it buried there a long time ago? They just don't know. Nope. So they know that this dead body is in the house? Yes. And it's cremated? No. I think that's the only way the dead body is going to be in the house. Is it buried? No. And so I just kept asking the questions. And this is why I wouldn't do well with the moderator, because they would ask different questions than the ones I want to know the answer to, right? So this is why I need to do this by myself. So I keep asking questions, and I keep going back to, this is a cremation. Did these people kill this person? No. Do they know this dead body is there? Yes. Is it cremated? No. It's not buried? No. Okay. So I write it down. I'm like, that's not even possible. Nobody's going to have a dead body in their house. right? That's not even possible. So I wrote it down, and then I started to see these weird spirit things that I've never seen before. They were not human. And I was like, what is that? And they were running through the house just really mad. They were raging, just furious. And I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And I just kept asking, what is that? What is that? What is that? And then I saw them coming out of a tree. And so I'm like, well, they must be some kind of a tree spirit then. And they're really mad at these people. And so I wrote that down. And I gave it to the guy who asked me to do this for him. He's like, well, Jen, I don't know. I said, I don't know either. Maybe I'm not good at this. That's just like way out there stuff. And as a rational mind person, I think sometimes psychics just say things that are just so generalized, it could be true no matter what. That's what my rational mind says, right? Everybody else thinks the same thing, I'm quite sure. So here I am, I give them this very specific information that even I'm going, I don't think that could be true. But here's what I saw, and they kept saying that there is a human body in the house. If they didn't kill this person, they know it's there and it's not buried. I don't even see how that could be true. So they go to this house, which is like 4 hours from where I live. I didn't go there. And he calls me when he gets, after he's walked through this house, and he's like, oh my gosh, Jen, I'm at that house. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I walk in, and the first thing I see is a giant stuffed bear, a real bear. There's really a bear there. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, and right across the wall from that are these 3 Native American masks. The first one has the Indian chief feathers, headdress on, and the next one has the wolf pelt on his head, and the next one has the buffalo with horns. And he says that they're positioned on the wall, but they're staring at the bear. I was like, oh, that's what I saw. They were staring at the bear all the time. And then he said, we went into the basement, and he said it was awful. It was horrifying. I said, well, what happened? He says, in the basement, this guy is an amateur taxidermist who is trying to figure out how to be a taxidermist. And he has not got skill whatsoever. He's been going out and killing a ton of animals and trying to stuff them. And he's just mutilating the crap out of them. It's filled with dead animals down there. It was awful. And I was like, oh, that was... Talk too long, maybe? They went out of juice? Or too much? So, anyway, so I said, oh, that's the country that was telling me about what they should have done. And he says, and get this, Jen, they have a dead human body in their house. I said, well, cremation? He goes, no. I said, how is that even possible? That's impossible. And he said, they purchased a mummy from a museum that went out of business. And they have this in their home. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. And he said, and then these people have lived in this house for more than 20 years. They've never had a problem until just a few weeks ago. And all hell broke loose in their house. And he said, well, what happened? Was there something that happened at that time?